Hi, this is BJ Smothers. I'm here in Duluth, Georgia at the Family History Expo, and I'm talking to Juanita Moss, who stopped by the Afrogenius booth. Ms. Moss came by yesterday, and she had been talking earlier with Valencia Nelson about some research that Valencia did for her since yesterday. But hi, Ms. Moss, how are you?
Hey, good morning.
Good, good.
Just fine.
Good, good. Welcome to the Afrogenius booth again today. I'm just particularly intrigued by that shirt that you have on. Let me zoom in so our viewers can see it a little bit.
Yeah, I wore it especially for this expo. What better place to wear it than here with Ancestry.com. This is a t-shirt that was made by my brother-in-law in honor of his father-in-law, who was my father, who passed away in 1972. My father was an unusual person because he was an anthracite coal sculptor. Now most people say, well, what's anthracite coal? Well, that's the hardest coal in the world, found in northeastern Pennsylvania. And that's where I was born. I was born in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. My father did his work there, and also in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Now my father was the son of a young man who went into the mines when he was 14 years of age. He was the son of a runaway slave, Juanita Patience from Edenton, North Carolina. And this runaway slave had joined the Union Army. He joined the Pennsylvania Regiment and ended up in Pennsylvania because that's where he had to go to get his last pay, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He settled in northeastern Pennsylvania as a farmer. But his oldest son, Harry, my grandfather, wanted to go into the mines when he was a young boy. Like the European boys went in at 7 and 8 and 9 years of age. They were called breaker boys because there was a big building there that broke up the coal. That was called breaker boys. My illiterate great-grandfather was determined that all of his children would have at least an 8th grade education. So that's why my grandfather, Harry, didn't go into the mines until he was 14. Now when the breaker boys had spare time, they would sit around and they would whittle pieces of coal into animals or other kinds of figures. And my grandfather was very good at doing this. And one of his favorite things to carve was a heart. And so he made one for his mother, then he made one for his sisters, and his friends started asking, will you make them for me? At age 17, he injured his arm in the mines, and he decided he wasn't going to go back in the mines. His parents supported him. He started his own coal carving business, which became very lucrative. He married, had 6 sons. He taught the business to all of his sons, but only my father and his younger brother continued the business. His younger brother continued with just doing things like ashtrays and clocks and jewelry, but my father wanted to become a sculptor. And in the 1950s, he started sculpting larger figures, bust of George Washington, which is at the Anthracite Heritage Museum in Scranton, an African woman's bust, but his most famous sculpture is an altar, 42-ton altar at King's College Chapel. This was what he was most proud of. And so when I tell my story is 4 generations. My great-grandfather, who was a slave, who became a Union soldier and then a farmer in Pennsylvania. My grandfather, who was a coal carver, who had a lucrative business in northeastern Pennsylvania. My father, who became a coal sculptor, listed in Who's Who in America in 1972 and featured in Ebony magazine in 1970. And then me, I consider myself a griot, having written 5 books, working on my 6th book. My first book is called Created to be Free, which is a novel based on the life of my great-grandfather. I couldn't write a biography because I didn't know that much about him. My second book is called Battle of Plymouth, North Carolina, April 17th to 20th, 1864, the last Confederate victory, which is a non-fiction version of that fateful battle where the Yankees were all killed or sent to Andersonville prison. And in the roster of the 103rd Pennsylvania Volunteers, in which my great-grandfather served, it says he apparently escaped capture, and I wanted to know how that happened, so I started researching. I have found over 2,000 names of black soldiers who served in white regiments. These men have been completely erased, or the word I use is forgotten, from history, and my life's work well, at least since 1998, has been to collect the names of these men so that historians and other people will recognize them. Descendants will be able to find them on Ancestry.com too, as well as the United States color troops. So that is my story. 4 generations out of slavery. Crowder Patience, the slave, Harry Patience, the coal carver, Charles Edgar Patience, the coal sculptor, Juanita Patience Moss, the griot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been fascinating. Pleasure to meet you.